GMOG Sports TV back with another one. I told y'all I'm going to be doing more consistent content. All right. Um, so I'm gonna start off slow. I'm gonna start off slow, probably a couple videos a week, and then turn it up as time progresses and stuff like that. But I got a lot to talk about in terms of boxing related content. Um, when I started my channel last year, primarily I was going to be talking about boxing. So this is a channel specifically dedicated to my favorite sport, boxing. And yeah, let's get right into it, man. As the title says, proof that Deontay Wilder is not the face of boxing. Of course, we have a lot of narratives being thrown around by these LDBC and PBC fanboy channels, in which just as recent as a year and a half ago, I was on that bandwagon. I was on that LDBC, PBC narrative. Al Heyman is the savior of boxing. He's the savior of black fighters and all that stuff. I was on that bandwagon. I did a video on my main channel, GMOGMedia TV, talking about and praising how great Al Heyman was. And see, I'm a guy that picks up on patterns. I'm a guy that analyzes things because I'm far from a surface thinker. I'm a layered, multi-layered thinker. Very analytical. I research, I fact check. You know what I'm saying? I always cross my T's and dot my I's when it comes to researching information. You know, and so I can pick up on patterns very easily. And I saw the writing on the wall last year about the deception of Al Heyman and what he's doing. You know, using other people's money. And that's what you do as a business, of course, right? You use other people's money to get rich, but at the same time, stop fronting and stop lying as to make it seem like, you are running the ship when it comes to the PBC, and he's not. PBC is funded, all right, by another entity that does with hedge funding rather. A hedge funding group, and I can get to that in another video. You know what I'm saying? But I want to specifically talk about Deontay Wilder being pushed around by these LDBC, PBC fanboy channels. And shout out to I was on their live yesterday, or actually on their video yesterday. Shout out to DT3 out there. I saw DT3. I saw who else? Myron Magnus did their live yesterday. Shout out to the boy Mr. Two Hands Up. I saw him yesterday. They had a great debate. D Jefferson also, much respect to you as well. Had a great live stream yesterday talking about the current state of boxing, and they also talked about who is the face of boxing. Everybody has some great insight when it comes to that. And I'm gonna do something a little bit different. I'm gonna tell you who's not, and it's empirical data, because everything I talk about on this channel, is not. I don't need to do agenda based, narrative based, clickbait type of shit that the PBC, LDBC, and that kind of narrative fanboy channels do. I just talk about raw facts with empirical data. That's it. Raw facts with empirical data, logic, common sense with empirical data. Facts, logic, and common sense. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I talk about. But Deontay Wilder is not the face of boxing. Point blank and simple. His highest grossing fight when it comes to ticket sales, right, was against Tyson Fury. We all know this. Tyson Fury, that happened last year, December 2018. He fought Tyson Fury at the Staples Center. Okay. Had a near capacity crowd of 17,698. And this is from a reliable source, Los Angeles Times, LA Times, right here. That's the source. Okay, 17,698 people were at the Staples Center last year. And he generated, or Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder both generated a very, very modest 3.5 million live gate. Live gate for you guys that don't know. Live gate is basically the amount of money you generated from ticket sales, right? And so you got to ask yourself, look, why did they have so many people at the fight, but they only generated 3.5 million in live gate? Well, because of the fact that ticket sale, the average ticket sale price, okay, the average ticket sale price, if it's at a certain price point, and if you do simple math, that's how much you're going to generate it. So the average ticket price at that Tyson Fury Wilder event was pretty modest, pretty low. That's why you generate it. But at the same time, if it's handlers like Shelly Finkel and Lou DiBella, Al Heyman, JD's, Mark Breland, his handlers knew his worth, they would have made sure that the price was higher. Because you got to remember, when Joshua fought Ruiz back in June, right? When Joshua fought Ruiz back in June, I think the average ticket price was like 3 or 4 times the markup versus Dominic Breazeale and Wilder. Point being is that the average ticket price for the Joshua Andy Ruiz fight this past June was significantly higher than the Breazeale versus Wilder fight, and that still sold out. Win, lose, or draw, the Ruiz and Joshua fight that happened this past June at Madison Square Garden sold out with a 3 to 4 time markup average ticket price than Breazeale versus Wilder. Straight facts. And so with 17,698 tickets sold, and he only generated 3.5 million in live gate, that lets you know why people like Showtime did not pick up and pay a licensing fee to showcase Wilder versus Ortiz Part 2 on pay-per-view. They couldn't take that risk of losing more money. In the same article, they mentioned that hold on, I gotta find that context real quick. In this same article, they were talking about that Showtime had to pay some kind of licensing fee. I think it's in another article, but the point is that Showtime, when you actually pick up, when a network decides to pick up a fight and showcase a fight, they have to pay a fee to have exclusive rights to that fight and showcase it. And so Showtime, for that Dominic Breazeale fight this past year, the Dominic Breazeale Wilder fight, they had to pay upwards of $6 million just to actually have exclusive rights to that fight. They lost money on that. Pay Wilder, pay Breazeale. They didn't make money off of that. And the fact that the fight between Dominic Breazeale, and Wilder did not sell out. I think it was 13,000. I remember correctly, there was 13,181 tickets sold for the Dominic Breazeale versus Wilder fight at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. Okay, it did not sell out. Okay, and Showtime took a loss. Okay, and if you understand patterns, why would Showtime, right, a network that paid that much money up front and they lost money with the Dominic Breazeale Wilder fight, why would they decide to pick up Ortiz versus Wilder on pay-per-view and lose more money? They don't have that kind of financial backing to do that. That's why Fox was able to pick that fight up on pay-per-view, because they're willing to take a loss, right? They're willing to take a loss. They have more money than Showtime, and that's just facts, right? So Showtime knows that Wilder is not marketable. Wilder is not nowhere near a household name like a Canelo or Anthony Joshua. And sidebar, every heavyweight, at least the top heavyweights, they know that Anthony Joshua is the cash cow of the division. And not only that, they low-key know, whether they want to admit it or not, they want Joshua to win, because if Ruiz wins the rematch versus Anthony Joshua, Ruiz cannot And this is, he went from an overnight success just like that. I mean, he was a undercard fighter when Danny Garcia was fighting against, I believe, who was he fighting against? I gotta look it up on BoxRec. But he was an undercard fighter fighting, on welterweight cards. You know what I'm saying? Look that up. Yeah, Adrian Granados. He was fighting against Adrian Granados in Carson, California. He was fighting on that undercard in April. Like, nobody knew who the hell Andy Ruiz was fighting on that undercard. Right? Yeah. Andy Ruiz versus Alexander Dimitrenko. He was fighting on that card. Nobody knew who the hell he was, even though he fought Joseph Parker before that. But nobody still knew who he was. So, like, my point is that Andy Ruiz is an overnight success. The most his popularity based off the back of Anthony Joshua, even if Andy Ruiz gets the nod again versus Anthony Joshua, if Andy Ruiz wins again, he will not generate. They'll set up a super fight with Deontay Wilder for the so-called PBC title. I'll do another video on that. That fight will not generate the amount of money if Anthony Joshua beats Ruiz and Anthony Joshua versus Wilder is set up. Anthony Joshua is the cash cow of the heavyweight division. Point blank and simple. Right? Everybody knows this. Okay? But Wilder is a product of a person who has been mismanaged and coddled his entire career. A guy that relies on power, does not respect the sport of boxing when it comes to technique and discipline. He does not respect the sport of boxing. His handlers know he has God-given ability when it comes to power. So they're willing to work around his shortcomings. He's mentally inept when it comes to fighting style and technique. He does not have the proper technique to throw a punch, which is why he's always getting hurt, throwing those right hands. Wilder is just, like I said, is a product of a guy who's been coddled his entire career, and the fact that his handlers say, you know what, I'll work with this guy because he has God-given power. Even though he can't box for shit, you teach him something, some fundamentals of boxing, he doesn't know it. And to counterpunch, and I'm using counterpunch, shout out to Kurt, to kind of piggyback off of what the guys were saying on DT3's live stream yesterday, right? I think D. Jefferson made a great point talking about, Deontay Wilder does not have an amateur pedigree. And I think that's done on purpose because of the fact that if his handlers saw the shortcomings he had as a boxer, right, lacking fundamentals and stuff like that, and the fact he has tremendous power, they couldn't take him to the ringer of having a great amateur pedigree like a Lomachenko, and all these other guys that have great amateur pedigrees like Usyk, all that. You know what I'm saying? They know because of his shortcomings, they couldn't allow him to go through the amateur ranking system as a normal boxer would. They saw a guy that has tremendous power, and they're willing to work with the guy and coddle him and protect him to a certain extent, so they can showcase what he does best, which is knocking people out. And that's it. So everything from Wilder's career, fighting in malls, his 22nd professional fight versus Owen Beck, right? They coddled his career to the point where they stunted his growth, right? In terms of his marketability, his popularity, and also financially. Betting on yourself when a network that you so-called believed in and supported does not believe in you, as in Showtime. Showtime does not believe in Deontay Wilder because he can't generate money. They invest money and they want Deontay Wilder. They know they're not going to make it back. Point blank and simple. So, yeah, that's the evidence right there, family. His lie, Put it like this. Uh, Deontay Wilder's best numbers when it comes to pay-per-view and ticket sales, right? His best numbers, 3.5 million live gate, over 320,000 pay-per-view buys versus Tyson Fury. Those are his best numbers. And he won't ever top those numbers unless he fights Anthony Joshua. If he fights Tyson Fury again, he won't get those numbers again. If he fights Andy Ruiz, he won't. I would say he'll get probably 300,000 buys, but that's about it. He won't get over 350. Right? So his best numbers, right, when it comes to pay-per-view and generating revenue for ticket sales, aren't even close to guys like Canelo and Anthony Joshua. Canelo's and Anthony Joshua's worst numbers are better than Deontay Wilder's best numbers. That's simple. So, you look at top live gates. This is from Nevada State Athletic Commission. You see Floyd Mayweather's name all over the place. And you see Canelo's name all over the place. Canelo's is in the top 5 in terms of gross sales and paid attendance. He's in the top 5 versus Triple G with those 2 fights. Okay? So, like I said, man, Deontay Wilder is a guy who's been coddled and protected his whole entire career. And, guys who, like the LDBC and these PBC fanboy channels who are basically brainwashed. I'm talking about the guys who follow those narratives. The guys that are pushing the narratives, those are the puppeteers. They're controlling y'all motherfuckers to make it seem like, the PBC and Al Heyman is doing tremendous things for boxing when no, they're basically keeping everything in-house. All right? They are siloing themselves from everybody else in boxing. How does that grow the sport? That grows PBC, and that puts money into Fox's hands and the hedge fund company that's funding PBC. It puts money in their hands. That's it. So yeah, those are my thoughts on that, family. Leave your comments down below. That's just proof right there. Empirical data, Shout out to IBFP as well. He always talks about facts can't be biased, and that's a fact. Facts can't be biased. There's no emotion when it comes to facts. You know what I'm saying? So, Deontay Wilder's best pay-per-view and live gate numbers aren't even better than Canelo and Anthony Joshua's worst numbers. It's not. So those are my thoughts on that, family. Leave your comments down below. Until next time, GMOGmedia Sports. I'm getting my channels mixed up. GMOGSportsTV. Shout out and also subscribe to my main channel, GMOGmedia TV. All right, family. Until next time, peace.